Hello.
Hi.
In the thick of life. Welcome
Yes.
to the thick of life.
It's actually a great story how you came up with this.
How I
Completely
came up.
unrelated to this podcast, by the way.
Yeah. With an idea, with a name for a program that you created but haven't ran yet.
Exactly. But it's
And then
going to
yeah,
someday.
okay, promise. Cool.
Yes.
And then we kind of, in a very sporadic way, ended. Look, it's not an end, but we kind of found ourselves here. Let's make something like a series of podcasts, episodes, or whatever it's gonna become. And let's call it In the Thick of Life.
Yeah. And it was because the program I was trying to birth, I guess, was around like aliveness, but it was a bit more in the ability to be in this in the friction, in the eros, yeah. And so that's when we were talking about it and you said, "Oh, in the thick of life." And I thought it was a great program name actually, but it ended up being a podcast name.
Still cool.
Yeah.
So, shall we speak first a little bit about what it is and what our background is and how we found ourselves here recording conversations from the thick of life?
Yes. Yes, please also because I think I don't know much about you on the personal
Same.
level. So I'm
Same.
really curious.
But
Who are you?
this is yeah. This is like one of most existential questions that I never
Yeah.
know how to answer. But this is something that I find so very cool. Like a lot of my closest people, and definitely like with most of my students, and with each other, they also like nobody knows what kind of job. Like, do you have a day job? Like, what are like your personal details? Nobody knows any of this, but everybody's familiar with everybody, like on such a deep, like soul level and spirit level. And it's just like, I know you like from like through my blood and bones and spirit and my soul and my body, but I have no idea, about like personal human stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true. Like we've had so many conversations about brilliant things and ideas and sometimes even very personal things, like things we go through, but not, it's weird, but not really personal, like not day-to-day life,
Mm-hmm.
things that, our soul and bodies go through.
So I literally never know how to even begin answering this question. What is my background? I don't know. Let's start with like some geography. I was born and raised in Russia, which is also, I would actually love to record a conversation about heritage, and especially if it's connected to something that's playing out politically and
Hmm.
socially currently and collectively. When I was there still in my birth country, I never ever felt connected to the land or people ever. From the beginning, from when I was little, I kind of knew that I didn't belong, but that not belonging never felt like, like some kind of suffering, like, oh, I don't belong and no, everything is bad. But I don't belong here. And there was always orientation to where do I belong? So there was always like this, like a little bit spirit of, And the first opportunity I got to move from the country, I was there, like with my with my suitcase, like I'm going, and that was a work opportunity. At that time, I was working in a corporate job. I started building my career because when I was 21, my father left, and the way how he left, he just like one day, he just left completely, like everything just cut, no communication, no nothing. It's just like he was there, and the next day there was no father, basically. And for the longest time, I also used to tell people like I don't have a father, never had one. I was born from an immaculate conception. Like for real, I would say this, and people were like super confused. And I was like, yeah, and like no father included in this process. So there was like complete denial of basically a half of myself. Yeah, never leads to anything good, as we know. A long story short, right? And then I kind of, at that point, I was 21 and I had to find a good enough, steady enough job so I can take care of myself financially, so I can also help out my mom, my sister, and kind of I didn't have any time at all, nor space, nor it was not even anywhere in the realm of possibilities to think about what do I want, what do I like, like what is life, this kind of thing. So it was like I have to work. And so the next day after I received my graduation papers and stuff, I was in the office building career, very much like focused on like I must. And I'm smart, so I did. I did. And I started working as a translator. Then in the same company grew to project manager, then business development manager, then with like years go by and you can see it like as a fairy tale. Years go by and nothing is happening, but also yeah, like building career, management level, several offices, like all this stuff. Absolutely utterly unhappy, very sick, but kind of didn't know it yet because of like the amount of holding and like suppression. Like I can do this, I must do this. There is no choice, basically. So go, 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 go. And yeah, at some point, things got so bad that I was kind of orienting to flee the country, like for real. I was looking for like what can I do? Because at that point I was financially supporting my mom completely, like 100% was my responsibility. And so that also was like a big factor. If I leave now, what's going to happen? And that point, I also, by accident, by random accident, which was not random accident, of course, I met who's now is my husband. And so that was like, shoot, but I'm planning to flee. So what do I do now? So that kind of, again, there was a pivot in my kind of orientation to what is next, because I know that I cannot just continue doing what I've been doing. And my husband and I lived in Estonia. So my first country of immigration was Estonia, from Russia to Estonia. And he's from the Netherlands. And so we met in Hungary at a work conference. And then we started traveling a lot in between the countries. And then was the big question. So this is absolutely not sustainable, right? So like
Yeah.
we kind of have to decide, do we want this enough or we don't? And then, like, long story short, we got married because this was such a practical decision, because
Mm-hmm.
neither I nor he were like, I don't care about marriage, really. It's like sign the papers and like what does it do? But at that point it did a lot. And so then I moved, like, again, long story short, with a lot of paperwork and stuff, I moved to the Netherlands, still been like corporate career. This is the only thing that I know. This is like, I'm really good at it. And I was. I'm very logical person. Like I'm good in project management. I'm like, I'm very structured. So I thought, which is absolutely not the case, actually. And so I was still working in corporate until like a full complete body collapse. There was thyroid issues. There was like full body, just nervous breakdowns after breakdowns after breakdowns. It's kind of how I see it now, looking back, is the body moved from an absolutely like physically not safe, abusive environment into safety for the first time in my life. Like literally for the first time in my life, I was experiencing physical safety. Boy, was I confused. So confused. And then it felt like my body started just falling apart. It was like issue after issue after issue after issue after diagnosis after diagnosis after diagnosis. I was like, what is happening? For the first time in my life, I'm safe. I can actually live my life, but it feels like everything is falling apart.
Wow. From a trauma perspective, it makes a
I
lot of
know.
sense.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I imagine at the time you were like, can life ever get good? Because you have this feeling of, yeah, this is never
Yeah.
ending.
Exactly. And my mom, she's like such an intuitive witch, but absolutely like not educated in any of this, but she knows things.
Okay. I love your
She
mom.
knows things. And she was telling me like, yeah, it's like it's an adaptation period. And she has no idea about like neurosystems and stuff. And she's like, It's an adaptation period. You'll adapt. And I'm like, I don't want to adapt. Like, I'm in my misery. I'm suffering here. I'm falling apart. Can't you see that? And she's like, you'll adapt. I'm like, no, you know.
I love your mom. And I can also hear, I don't know Russian culture really well, but I think we probably have similar mothers. And they're like, I like, you'll adapt. They tell you that and you're like, what? What do you mean?
It's like, I don't want to hear any of this. I'm just suffering here. I want to be recognized in my suffering. And she would just repeat this, like, yeah, you'll adapt. It's just like, what do you need to, like, just orient to what do you need to, I don't know, like self-care and all kinds of stuff, like to support this adaptation period. And I was like, no, I know better, like in this very teenager, like, state, like, I know better. Like, no, don't tell me things. Of course, she was right, as usual. And so again, long story short, I started because I was visiting a lot of doctors, like Western medical doctors, doing like all the tests and stuff, been diagnosed with thyroid issues, with muscle activation syndrome, for sure orthostatic tachycardia, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, like the whole set of things. And it literally felt like everything is falling apart. Like my body is just getting like more and more and more symptoms and issues and everything. And well, a lot of the times what doctors said to me is like, yep, this is your... Oh yeah, also I was diagnosed with chronic depression by someone who just saw me for 2 minutes. And the doctor said like, yeah, you're chronically depressed. So you will stay like this for the rest of your life. And the only thing you can do is to manage and learn to live with it.
Wow.
And I think that was like that moment and that diagnosis was the point for me. I was like, no, I disagree. No, I'm not going to play into all this diagnosis and like this is it just felt so limiting in so many ways. It's like, this is your life now. Deal with it, learn to manage, and there is no option. And so I went like into the stance, like, watch me. And here we are.
And what do you think that part of you who resisted and was like, hell no, I don't agree? Like now in retrospect, what would you say was the thing that made you feel
Mm.
the no?
It just did not make sense in any way. It's like, not in a mental way, because in a mental way, like, yeah, those are all doctors with diplomas and they know things and they say this thing, so it must be true. But in the whole like being way, it was like, it cannot be. It's just like does not make any sense to me.
Mm.
And also with that specific diagnosis of chronic depression, I was like, I don't feel I don't feel depressed to begin with, and definitely not chronically depressed.
Yeah, and it's kind of, yeah, it's also super insulting. It's like you're chronically depressed.
Yeah, like deal with it.
It's
I'm like,
chronic.
what? Yeah, it's what? The only chronic thing that I have now is chronic osmosis.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Spiritually speaking, I feel like it's really a God complex when they say things like that. It's not always the case
Mm,
with diagnosis, but when they say it's chronic depression and it's for your whole life, I really see someone who thinks they're God.
mm.
I feel it's
Like,
so weird.
who are you to say things like this? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's so inhumane to take hope away from someone. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah, it's
find it weird when,
completely like cut, done.
yeah,
Next. I was like, what?
exactly. So when they do that, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
It's not like they're like, so this is my diagnosis for now. They're like, it's always gonna be this way. I'm
forever,
sorry.
forever. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay.
And so, yeah, and here we are. Now I teach professionals, I teach practitioners to work with fields. I teach subtle perception. Yeah. Life is miraculous.
And maybe you teach also trauma healing without labeling it trauma healing. I wonder if you
For
agree with
sure.
me. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. I don't like to speak about it as trauma work. I'm in the process of finding maybe new ways of speaking to this, because it is for sure trauma work, but it's not. It is metabolizing everything around, like all the distortions and hiccups and kind of nodes in whatever layers in the body they are, without actually working on them in a way that's like, let's like poke at your trauma over and over and over again, and let's resource it, let's like whatever it is, like, you know. Yeah, it's a completely different way, so I'm still in a process of finding ways and words for this, but yes, for sure.
I can't wait to see how you name it, because I think, it's not just you, but I do think like there's this, I wonder if you agree with me, like there's this new wave in even like just therapy work in general, where people are realizing just how much the therapy ideology is just a new way to tell us that we aren't good enough, healed
Oh
enough
yeah. Oh yeah.
to live, you know?
Exactly.
And so it's like we are perpetually replacing oppression systems with others. And this is the era of therapy. And it's so fascinating to see how Gen Z relate to it when you see like TikTok videos, like Instagram, and like the whole like my attachment style is this, and like I have this trauma, the vocabulary, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trigger this and trigger that, and like trigger warning, and I found someone who is a safe place, and like it's a whole dictionary of trauma, and like dissociation, and freeze this and freeze that, and there's another. I forgot the best one. Regulation.
Yes.
The best of the best. Regulate yourself. Self-regulate. Regulate this. The vagal, sympathetic, parasympathetic.
I'm like rolling my eyes so hard right now.
It never stops. It never stops. And
No.
I use these words also at work because they allow you to explain things sometimes, like phenomenon and things. But I find it quite worrying that everyone is using them as an identity explanation.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I freeze when this happens. I'm like, what? No, that's not who you are. It's not like, hi, I'm
Mm-hmm.
Asma, I freeze. No, So, yeah. Anyways, just wanted to talk a bit about.
I'm so looking forward to our conversations. It's gonna be so good. Also, we're going to piss off a lot of people, probably.
Yeah. We might even piss off ourselves.
Good. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So wait, fast forward today. What happened after the diagnosis? After diagnosis?
For me. Yeah, there's a lot of disagreement, and it's like I felt like there's a lot of fire awakening, like how dare you almost. And then something that is very familiar for me, like this way, this rebellious, like, watch me. Oh, so you say I can't. Haha, watch me. Exactly the same things happen like with my business that is now a business. Like people telling me things like, no, 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 you're gonna spend like years building reputation and deal with that. Like you're not gonna make money. And I'm like, watch me.
Yeah.
And then things just happen like done, 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 done. So yeah,
Okay. Praise the rebellious.
yes.
Mm. Yeah.
Like tell me that I cannot do something. I dare you.
I actually think it's a very healthy thing to be conscious of the rebellious one, so it doesn't rebel against
Oh
things that
yeah.
are self-destructive.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
You
You used
know?
to have this all the time as well. So
Me too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So once you get it, and you're like, oh wait, it's a superpower, but wait how
Yeah.
you use it. Be careful
Yeah.
how you use it.
Yeah, with everything. It's always like you tip over into the side, like which side are you going into?
Exactly. So, and this is also like why I always speak of why pathologizing is a bad idea, because someone could tell you, this pattern you have of always rebelling against everything, that's a pattern because you had X trauma and that and blah blah blah. And what? Yes, maybe, but and it's like the fight or flight response, like or like the urge to flee. Just flee. Find your tide with it. Like go away
Exactly.
and come back and go away. As long as it's not like oppressive to you or like it doesn't cause harm and it's conscious and you get the tide where it's going, the movement, it's great.
Exactly.
There's nothing to solve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There will be no solutionism.
Yeah. You can live right now, today. Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you?
Mm.
So tell us. I'm so looking forward to hear your story.
Okay. So I actually relate a lot. I was smiling earlier because I also have something with belonging that have absolutely Like it has no explanation. Like I just don't belong. And when I was little, I had this feeling of like I would look at people around me and feel like I'm outside of their world. Like
Yes.
even children at school, they would be my friend, and like we would like play and blah blah blah. But I always feel like something's weird. It's not my universe. Growing up, teenage years and all the things, it would get more pointed sometimes at societal things. I would be like, this society is weird. Like I remember way before I understood what feminism or like all of this even meant, I would hear things adults would say, and I would be like, this is wrong. And I don't know why. It just feels wrong. Like if they would like victim blame a woman because of what she was wearing, I would be like, this is
Mm.
wrong. And I
Mm.
had no education about this whatsoever. It was just came, I was like, this is unjust. This is unfair. This is blah, blah, blah. And I always had this thing in me of noticing things that were wrong to me and I couldn't explain it. It's so weird. Don't know where it's come
No,
from.
no, it's not.
Yeah,
Not to me.
and because it was so different from everyone, like my sisters, my everything, it like perpetuated this feeling of where did I come from? And I don't have family trauma that is so easily explainable. I grew up with both my parents. I mean, you have small t trauma, things that are unfair as a child, attachment issues, of course. But you grow up in a safe home I had both my parents put food on the table. I went to quite great schools, so I don't have a reason to feel that way, not belonging. I have a huge extended family, both sides, and still I had this really strong feeling of not belonging. And when I graduated high school, yes, because I did my high school in a French school, and I had one dream leaving. Like there's also honestly conversation about Morocco as a whole. Like we have a huge flight tide. Like it's huge. There is a huge flight
Mhm.
energy here. Everyone wants to flee. Even you could be the richest person, you want to leave. So it's an actual collective energy that is quite fascinating, I find. So I just wanted to leave, and I also fell for a lie. I fell for the colonial lie that the West was much better.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
that France was democracy, because you read that in history books. It wasn't a complete. I didn't fall for like the whole lie, but quite a big portion
Mhm.
of it.
Mhm.
And so then I arrived in Paris and it was horrible. The weather was horrible. Everything about it was, I was like, you cannot be this cold. Like, this is not. I'm realizing I'm saying this to a Russian, but no, no, I don't agree. So, full body resistance to, and I still have a traumatic relationship to cold to this day because I think it was like so strong that all my cells were like, no. So, and I increasingly became so disappointed by the West.
Mm.
I started realizing this is crap. They all live in a lie where they think there is no oppression, like civilization and blah, blah, blah. And they're just, fell themselves for the lie of their ancestors, you
Yeah.
know? So I became an engineer a few years later. I did a few episodes of depression for which I never went to a psychologist. I just thought, I'm not okay, but it will pass. I'm
Mhm.
happy. Honestly, I did that now in retrospect. I had quite good friends who took care of me throughout the years. And I was just like you. I was super smart, hardworking. I needed to maintain my immigration papers. So I needed to work.
Yeah.
So I
Same.
had literally no interruption, like graduate, go to work right away without any, not even 1 week vacation, not one interruption. And I started working, had pretty decent job, great pay, exhausted.
Yep.
And I kept this. Yeah. And I met my ex-husband that year. Anyways, I started getting a bit better because I think when you have more financial capacity, money is also a nervous system regulator. So it helps a lot. And I'm realizing now that I'm saying this, that there are many similarities, even if the story is different, because the more I became, I felt secure and like I don't have to. Oh, also, I got citizenship, so I didn't have to always fight to just be able to stay in the territory.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, we got married with my ex 3 years later, I think. Yeah. And it was comfortable in many ways. And then I just started being chronically fatigued,
Mm.
back hurting, hating my job. It was actually a conscious hate in my job. I hated it, like really. I felt not belonging. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing there and exhausting. And I had really like confusing sense of my boundaries. Like I couldn't say no in front of like
Mm.
that much load of work. And at the same time, you project things on your work as if it was your parents. It's not,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
this whole, but they aren't grateful enough for all the work I do. They shouldn't be grateful. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean.
You act like a child, you look
Yeah.
for injustices everywhere, but you feel injustice for other reasons that are completely valid. And I still, at that point, didn't know what to do, like who to see, what to talk. And I felt like the majority of my friends at the time were in the machine and everyone just trying to numb, like drinking way too much alcohol, going to parties, and none of this felt okay for me. And what's interesting is that I got into being honest with myself through sexuality work. Yeah, it was COVID and we had a decent amount of issues with my ex and I didn't even have any energy to solve them. Honestly, I don't care. And I think the COVID, the staying home and the time made it so I had to confront all the fuckery
Mm-hmm.
and be
Mm-hmm.
like, something needs to be done here. Like, I cannot leave this. Like, so many other instinct came on the surface. Like, I actually want to be a mother. I've been lying to myself,
Mm.
but I don't want to be a mother with that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want
That,
him to be the
yeah.
father of my
Yeah.
children.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to face so many truths I was hiding under the carpet, like hiding really well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where it all started. And I started doing group programs first because I couldn't even handle any one-on-one situation. It was too much for me. And anyways, like one thing led to another. I ended up leaving my job, starting a new career. Then 2 years later, leaving my ex. And here we are. And I don't even know what I'm doing right now because I'm in the middle of a transition. Oh, also, I didn't say that. I left France last year, came back to Morocco. So it feels like ending 15 years chapter of my life. So I'm in the middle of picking up sexuality work again, but also opening the door of how can I help people here who do not live in the Western paradigm at all. So it's super interesting. And yeah, here we are. Yeah.
I'm so glad to sit here in this Zoom room with you and speak about all the things.
Yeah, me too. I think, you know what? I was invited in a lot of podcasts, I think. Yeah. And I was never this
Mm.
honest about my
Yeah.
my story. I always like would tell things a bit differently, be like, oh, people don't need to know this, blah blah blah, you know. But this
Thank
feels
you.
really different. This feels
Thank
like,
you.
yeah,
This
thank
feels
you.
like it's in the thick of life
Yes.
because yeah, I feel like this is like such a pattern, especially lately, especially like what you mentioned before, like everybody's so like regulation this, regulation that, diagnosing themselves based on social media and stuff. And there's like it has become like healing, whatever that even means currently, healing. I don't even like I don't know anymore. It has become such like a performative something to yeah. It's like even authenticity. People speak a lot about authenticity. Even authenticity is performative.
Yeah, I agree.
And we had this conversation also with some people before. Is like I don't know what that means
Hmm.
because authenticity, when you say the word, and it has like it brings like the whole field of experience of of doing a certain thing on social media, possibly in your underwear, possibly in your living room, being like dancing like this, and then it's authentic. So there's conditions put on everything,
Mm-hmm.
even on like the real actual human life experience, which is not at all that.
Yeah.
Which is it's intricate and complex and complicated and sometimes easy and simple and messy and bloody and sweaty and dirty and stinky and all the things.
Exactly. This is why like authenticity is felt. It's like and it never stops also. Like sometimes we think there's like point A and point B, and when you when you arrive at point B, you're healed and you're authentic. And I think it's true for everyone, but I would say like maybe specifically for women, we have this thing like I am so convinced of this. Our life is just initiation after initiation. You
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
always have new truth that you're going to be faced with, grief to go through, new creations to birth, even if you're resisting them, a new thing. It never stops, and it's like this cyclical nature of who we are and how we were made. And I think that's the trap with authenticity, is that I feel like sometimes coaches or like life coaches who talk about this, they really don't help you get to this embodied sense of like they don't it's exactly I'm just saying what you said, because it's really about going in like the mud and like it's actually like gardening.
Yeah,
you know
I
it's
agree.
like,
Yes.
what do you compost and how do you, what are the words in English when you put like the seed?
No, a seed,
Yeah.
planting seeds.
How, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you plant the seed and how do you water the garden and how do you accept that some things die and others, blah 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 and all those things. And also I would say, because I had this thought about authenticity the other day when I saw a Moroccan coach talking about authenticity, and it made me smile because I was thinking, how can you talk about authenticity in a country where there is a lot of repression, but just in the law, any sexual encounter outside of marriage is seen as a crime?
Mm.
How can you talk about authenticity without addressing that the state and the police have a right in our bodies? So, like, there is a lot I find of
Mm-hmm.
hypocrisy
Oh,
because,
yeah.
a life coach needs to convince you that if you go to their program, no, and I'm not saying they have a bad intention, or they're bad
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just think that they don't realize the distortion between the actual lives of everyone in this country
Mm-hmm.
and what they're trying to explain. And this is what takes you to performative authenticity. Because,
Yep.
how can you, if we're not talking about real authenticity and how we interact with the state and the collective within this inquiry, then the thing we're actually talking about is just performative authenticity. That's all you're actually talking about, And authenticity that would mean looking authentic and confident when you talk in public,
Yeah.
Or like looking authentic when you dress. What does it mean? No one knows if
No.
I dress
No,
authentically.
exactly.
Maybe I put this on because I felt like it's more fashion or something. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. There is so many things to be said about authenticity. And I heard you say one day that authenticity is including what has been excluded.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this that you said, and I found it was one of the best way to address it, you know,
Thank you.
including what has been excluded. And
Yeah.
also, like, it's an open inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Where has
It
it been
never,
excluded?
yeah, yeah, exactly. It never stops. It's never done. It's like, it is a movement. And this is something that I teach a lot. And sometimes I find it's very difficult for folks, especially if you like been like in psychological world long enough,
Mm-hmm.
or even like in this whole like modern contemporary healing regulation, like I'm rolling my eyes again, long enough, it's quite hard to understand, to begin even to understand that it's all about the movement. It's not about like the point of getting like to the destination or to a result or a goal. It's all about the movement, and the movement never stops, not with death even. there's always movement. Yes, sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. It's like the tides and everything, and we will talk about this, I'm sure. But it is all about the movement.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you navigating the movement? And what we do as modern humans, we're so fixated on points.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I must get to that point. No, 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 now this is not good enough. I must get to that one. No, now this is not good enough. I am not good enough. I must, and it's like never ending. But if you navigate, and this is to me also the difference between kind of a um, being in a everyday literal consciousness versus what I call in my work imaginal consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so looking forward also to speak to you specifically about the imaginal realm. I'm like, like drooling all over already. And the imaginal consciousness is co-creating life moment by moment.
Mm-hmm. 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 I love this. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'm like, goosebumps. Yes. Let's
Yeah.
talk about this at some point.
Yeah.
And it's also a good, I feel like this is such a good intention for me and for you. And it's not even intention. It's kind of the foundation for these conversations to be uncomfortably honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the sake just of our you and I relationship, and also for the sake of just bringing these conversations to everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So excited! I'm so excited! I'm so
Yeah, me
excited!
too. Yeah, me too.
Okay, I feel like this is a good ending for our first introduction.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. It was really great. I'm honestly still integrating that I have shared this much about me. It feels really good. Yeah, totally new.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, then thank you for listening, and we will see you, hear you next time.
Next
The
time.
end. Bye.